Yes, there are skinned Android superphones. Yes, there are company-branded Android phablets. There are even now Android wristwatches. But sometimes you want a stock, pure, clean Android experience right from Google. And judging from the increasing torrent of leaks surrounding LG's new Nexus 5, we don't have much longer to wait before we see it. We'll talk Nexus 5, as well as some of its more heavily modified competitors over the next 90 minutes or so on episode 066 of the Pocketnwo Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast from Pocketnow where we discuss smartphones, tablets, and the state of mobile technology in 2013. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and today I'm joined by precision driver, flannel enthusiast, and senior editor Taylor Martin. Hello, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
And by a guest who hopefully needs no introduction. YouTube personality, video producer, college student, professional athlete, and all-around most interesting man on the internet, Marques Brownlee, a.k.a. MKBHD. Welcome to the Pocketnwo Weekly, sir.
Thank you for having me. Hello, Internet.
That was an epic introduction.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I was surprised.
I appreciate it. There are a couple things I want to point out to our listeners before we get going. If you don't know Marques is only the second guest we've ever had on the Pocketnwo Weekly from outside of Pocketnow. And if you don't know him, you should. Despite being a one-man operation, his channel, youtube.com/MKBHD, boasts almost 600,000 subscribers. And actually, I wrote this intro in the morning, so I think Marques, I think you're surpassing it right now. Like, as we speak, you're rolling over to 600,000, if my math is right.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
That is awesome.
That's insane.
Congratulations, man. That is
500,000 or 599,844 as of this second.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was 599,571 when I was writing this morning, so that is amazing. So the moral of the story is, if you don't follow him already, listeners, you should, because if you're listening to this show, you're interested in what Marques covers. He covers mobile technology, many of the same gadgets we do. He does it very, very well. And because MKBHD is entirely YouTube-based, I know that at this moment, just a few minutes into this podcast, some of our new listeners are asking of this show, where's the video? Well, new listeners, first of all, welcome aboard. And second of all, the Pocketnwo Weekly, despite being hosted on YouTube for convenience's sake, is an audio-only podcast. So keep listening in your browser or download this podcast from the post at pocketnow.com. But also, and after this, I promise I'm going to let somebody else talk, if you want to see Marques on a Pocketnow video, don't despair, because next week I'll be talking with him on our interview series, the Pocketnow VIP, where we get to know a whole lot more about Marques. I'm really looking forward to it, sir.
Should be fun, yeah.
It should be. Where are you joining us from today? It's not you're coming from New York, New Jersey today?
I'm from sunny Hoboken, which is right across the river from New York. I just say New York when people ask where I'm from because it's easier to, people don't know Hoboken quite as well. But
but Hoboken sounds cool.
It is.
It does sound
way
cool.
Cooler.
Yeah,
it's cooler. It's funner to spell, honestly. But
I took a picture of Hoboken once.
Did you?
Nice. That's probably from New York, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rooftop party for Nokia launch.
Oh, yes. I know that. I know the event of which you speak. I have spent some time in Hoboken. I have some cousins who live there and things. It's a nice place.
Nobody cares.
Thanks, bro. What say we talk a little bit less about anything Taylor wants to talk about and about mobile technology? Does that sound good to you?
That sounds like a terrible idea.
I'm down.
Wasn't talking to you, Taylor Martin. I am still sick from a head cold, as I told these guys before. I'm still sick from a cold I caught at HTC Frequencies, or maybe that filthy bus stop where I recorded the last podcast from. So, Taylor, I would like you, if you do not mind, to please lead us in to our first topic of discussion. Since you read the rundown carefully before we started the show, I'm sure you're well equipped to do this.
It's gonna rain!
Swimming hole!
That's all I've got.
Well, we're talking Nexus 5 at first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it leaked last night, late last night.
And how did it do so?
How did what?
How did it do so? In what manner did it leak? Because I was out to dinner when this happened, by the way.
It popped up on the Google Play Store with a price tag of $349 for the 16-gigabyte model. And I am not convinced that this was an accident. I mean, it's been wiped. It's not in the cache anymore. It is, it's gone. Any evidence of it except for screen caps is gone. But I don't think it was an accident. I really don't, because we were expecting it on the 15th or 16th, whichever day. I don't know. All my days run together. But I don't think it was an accident. I really don't.
You think it was a controlled leak? I mean, you think this thing actually needs more publicity at this point?
Google is like the world's biggest troll. It really is.
Constantly. I'm in the same boat. I totally agree with you.
Really?
Google trolls everyone all day long. I promise you. Just look at it. Like, okay, somebody pointed this out earlier this week, and I believe it was Russell Hawley from Geek.com. He pointed out that if Google had went forward with key lime pie, nobody would really care. Like, we would be talking about key lime pie just as we're talking about Kit Kat.
Sure.
But we wouldn't be talking about it half as much. Every time anything Kit Kat does or anything Google does showing off Kit Kat, everybody goes absolutely nuts trying to decipher every little pixel of every picture that's shared. And they're probably not, there's no meaning to it, but Google knows that if they shared the tiniest little thing now, people are like trying to pull together all these facts that are just not related at all and try to make something of it. And
my favorite right now is the Kit Kat Google Plus page, so I pictured it as just like, you know, a couple of interns sitting in Nestle's offices being told, hey, make an image of some text made of Kit Kats and just post it.
Yeah.
And then it gets posted, and then 1,000+ ones later, there's like hundreds of comments counting the number of Kit Kats and the number of times it gets broken in half and how they use the Kit Kats to make them and trying to decipher a date. It's ridiculous.
Our own Stephen Shank has a really good article about this where he's just basically like, no, none of these hidden signals are actually real.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to calm down. He draws a great analogy to that where it's like, you know, the Android plush doll was photographed next to the Eiffel Tower. Does that mean that we're launching the next version of Android in Paris? Like, it's no. We're not on an episode of Lost. Like, this is not. But your point is well taken, though, Taylor. Google is a habitual troll. And I would not put it past them to just be kind of doing these occasional leaks for fun.
Well, maybe if we count all the pictures of Kit Kat and everything that's been shared, maybe that'll tell us how many days we are away from actually seeing it.
Right. Well, in any case, we've been teased with a launch date a couple times. It's never been right, as usual with the mobile tech blogging industry. This echo chamber has just kind of regurgitated false rumor after false rumor, and everyone's getting disappointed for no good reason. But we do have a press render that we think is pretty cool looking. Right from this was leaked from TELUS up in Canada, and then we've got, and I want to kind of use this to pivot into a video of yours,
hold on.
Marques. What is that? Not real?
Well, no, an invite just went out for a Google event on 10/24.
Whoa! Is this
New York City,
news?
7 p.m. Yeah, this just went out.
Ooh, hot stuff.
New York City, 7 p.m. on what date? October 24th?
Yeah,
Next
24th
Thursday.
at 7 p.m.
So 2 days after the Apple event. That's great.
Yeah, 2 days after the Apple event and the Nokia event, which is happening the same day. God,
you know what Google should do for the Apple event? Google
What?
should sit outside the Apple event and hand out Kit Kat bars.
So is this invite confirmed? That would be funny. Is this invite confirmed?
I think so, yeah.
Where's it coming from?
Geek.com is where I found it.
Ah.
Second plug for Geek. I was on Google Plus and found it.
Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. Well, that is cool. Hopefully that is for real. We will get to work at looking at that. If this were a live podcast, we could direct people to this live podcast and be like, hey, we're breaking some news, but we're not doing that. This news is 3 hours old at least already when it hits your ears. But regardless of when it is actually unveiled, we do have a pretty good idea of what to expect from the Nexus 5, thanks in part to a video that Marques whipped up. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take us through a couple of the bullet points of what we're looking at on the Nexus 5 that's basically confirmed at this point?
Yeah, definitely. So the most obvious part is Android 4.4 and Kit Kat and that whole deal. And so it's kind of like so when I was reading through the Android page about this and the Kit Kat page about this, the biggest thing that I got out of it was that the Google Experience Launcher is going to be a kind of a big deal about this whole Kit Kat launch.
What is that?
It seems like so it seems like a way to bring that stock Android experience to more people, which sounds like bringing the actual launcher itself to the Play Store. And there's obviously other third-party launchers like Nova Launcher and Apex Launcher and recently Aviate, but there's plenty of ways to change the way your Android home screen looks, but the official one, which would seem like the Nexus one from Google in the Play Store, would be awesome.
It would. I'm sorry, I've been stuck in review purgatory for the week. I actually knew nothing about this. Is this what level reading is this on the kind of accuracy meter? I mean, are we thinking this is legit?
I'm thinking this is like at least 8 out of 10. Like if you look at the, first of all, the Android page where you go to android.com/KitKat and you scroll all the way to the bottom, it gives a little summary of each version of Android from, the earliest versions all the way to KitKat. Yeah. And the one sentence summary for KitKat is, I think, bringing the Android experience or making the Android experience available for everyone. And that tied in with all the little APK teardowns of new Google updated apps and things like that. All kind of points to this launcher experience being made available in the Play Store, or at least for way more people than just own the Nexus. So I think the software is going to be more important than the hardware here when we see that Google event on next Thursday.
And that factors into, I mean, that plays nicely. It dovetails with Google's efforts to kind of, consumerify more of their stock Android experience, like the keyboard.
Yeah. It falls in line with what they've been doing, which is basically, I'm stuck in Southern mode right now.
Basically, what they've been doing.
Basically, what Google's doing is they're working to make Android, the core Android experience available to everyone. So update Android without updating Android. That's what we saw at Google I/O this year. They updated so many services and didn't announce a new update. So it was just like, here's the new Android, and it's still the same version.
Which was hugely exciting to me and hugely disappointing to other people who were obsessed with point iterations. And so I don't know.
That point one, like, everybody complains that some new phones don't come with Android 4.3.
I know.
The big update there is your OpenGL support, right? So the new OpenGL standard and trim. If you don't game, there's really not anything in that update that really matters to you at all. Or if you have a tablet because you have restricted user access. But outside of that,
I think it's reflexive at this point. I think we've been so conditioned to expect that most mainstream Android devices are always going to be a point release or two behind, thanks to things like carriers, thanks to manufacturer skins and all that stuff, that when a device comes out that's not running the quote-unquote current Android release, everyone feels like the device is already immediately behind. So I understand the thinking. I don't mean to crap all over these people, but I also am that's not the numbers are not the thing we should be focused on. It's the features we should be looking at, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, this is basically Google's best way to respond to that is by making all these different parts of Android available in the Play Store, and you can maintain it and update it through the Play Store, so no one has much left to complain about until there's a major actual Android OS update, which 4.4 is definitely not.
Agreed. And what about I know the bigger story is on the hardware, software here, but what about the hardware? We've seen a lot of this, and we sort of know what this is going to be, and it's not going to be as exciting as maybe we thought it was going to be last week with the variable battery capacities and things.
Yeah, no, we're not expecting anything crazy like that, but if for the people that saw the mini Play Store, quote, leak last night, it's basically exactly what we're expecting. So it looks like a 5-inch 1080p display. Looks like, I don't want to say it looks like the LG G2, but it's got very similar specs to the LG G2, and then it's got that really big camera ring on the back. Not sure what to expect from that, because we also saw this one little quote, again, just from the leak, talking about the Nexus 10, the Nexus 7, and then the quote for the Nexus 5 was, I think, ways to capture, introducing new ways to capture things. I don't remember the exact wording.
It was talking about
capture every day and capture every day and the epic in fresh new ways.
So I don't know what that means. But the component itself is supposed to be an 8 megapixel optically stabilized unit, right? So it's not the 13 megapixel OAS unit of the G2, but it's an 8 megapixel. Okay.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, please.
Every Nexus to date has had an absolutely horrible camera.
Truth.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
So Nexus was terrible. I remember that.
And the Nexus 4 wasn't great. It was god awful. So if they can make a Nexus at this price and it have a decent camera with LTE, I'm sold. I mean, I love my Moto X. I went back to it yesterday.
Yeah.
And man, I miss that thing so much. I mean, I miss multi-window. I miss the size of the Note 3, but there's just something about the Moto X I can't let go of.
I totally agree.
I'm exactly with you right there. I keep gravitating back to the Moto X after everything I've reviewed.
Yeah.
And it's great in literally everything that I want it to be good at, except for the camera. And it drives me insane how bad the camera is.
And that's true even after the update?
It is true. I described it. People keep asking me, hey, make a new video about the Moto X. The camera's way better. But I keep saying it went from maybe a 4 out of 10 experience to a 6 out of 10 experience.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that's game changing. It is definitely better, yes, but it's not going to do it for me still.
I've been trying to make a comparison between the before and after for, 2 weeks now?
Oh, God. You still haven't done that, Taylor.
I was supposed to do it yesterday, and Brandon's do this video, and this video, and this video.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because you have to do it, because I have updated it. I took my Moto X.
I accidentally updated last night, apparently.
Nice.
So there's that.
Yeah. Well, then let's forget about that video. No, but the Moto X came with me on a boat ride recently. I was sailing. I was on a sailboat race, and I was like, well, what phone am I going to take out there? And the Moto X is the one that I decided was the one I had available that was closest to water resistant, even though it's not. And even though I was in salt water, which, is pretty brutal to electronics. And that Moto X got really, really wet. And it still soldiered on. It took great photos and great video at sea, and I am running the update. So, in some lighting conditions where you have really vibrant color, as we did on the water that day,
right.
I think it's certainly passable. And if you want to carry a phone around that can take a little bit of abuse while taking passable shots, then I'm glad the update landed, is I guess what I'm saying.
And so that's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to dwell on the Moto X camera too much, but I've noticed that, when taking or looking at pictures of the Moto X, first of all, I can tell when a photo has been taken by the Moto X. There's a certain color balance to it where I can tell if you show me 10 different smartphone photos of the same object or the same scene side by side, I can almost always point out which one was taken by the Moto X. And another thing I keep getting questions about is the Xperia Z1 camera. And that for me, at least from my experience, people keep telling me it's great, it's a great camera. But from my experience, it's another one of those great performers in vibrant, highlight, colorful situations, but it's not as impressive as I was expecting it to be from all the reviews in indoor and lower light situations. So
no, I am completely with you on that. I was looking at Anton's review. We had a look at that thing at IFA, and we were taking test shots on the trade floor, and the camera was doing horribly. I mean, it was really, really performing badly if you zoomed in and looked. I mean, the noise level it wasn't just a high noise level, but it was there were artifacts of varying shapes within the noise. I mean, it's just horrible. And I'm looking at the sample shots right now. They're not good.
Yeah, they actually put an algorithm in there that hides pictures of giraffes and other things in the noise. So it injects different shapes into the noise to make it a cool effect.
I think honestly I do, and I will say I haven't read a lot of other reviews on the Z1, but I think if it's getting praise, I think it's getting praised because people are being taken in by these buzzwords. What is Tony the Exmor RS stuff and the what's their brand name that for some of their camera stuff on Sony? It's just Exmor RS, and then there's that along with the display technology.
Well, it's definitely not. But
shut up. In any case, if you look at the sample shots on Tony's review, it's they're not bad shots, but certainly I think there is a question of whether the Moto X or the Z1 takes better photos, and that's not a competition among the best. So yeah, let's not talk about these things. I hate it when cameras go wrong. It makes me sad. But so, what else to close out the Nexus 5? I mean, we've got this LED notification light down low, like we do on the Nexus 7, the new Nexus 7, and 1080p displays, 5 inches. We've got this matte finish, and you made a good point in your What to Expect video, Marques, about how the last Nexus device was nondescript sort of, but with that glittery back, it at least tried to stand out in one respect. This thing looks it looks like a completely forgettable device if you just kind of glance at it from across a room.
I think that's the point. In that they want you to not focus on the hardware, but focus on the software experience. Because this device is supposed to be the Google experience, correct?
Right.
So if you're focusing on the hardware and its specifications and everything, you're missing the point.
Sure.
It's the same thing with the Moto X.
Yeah, but the Moto X
is kind of pretty. The Moto X is kind of pretty.
The Moto X is designed to fit well in a hand. It has a lot of hardware enhancements to function the way it does.
I think that came out the wrong way. I'm saying that the Moto X, if you dwell on its internals, then you're missing the point.
Oh, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
And this one is the same thing. I think if you focus on what's running or what's powering it, and even with this one, the design and build, then you're missing the point. It's the same thing with the new Nexus 7. It has a similar design and build to the new Nexus 7. So, and I actually like that. I like the build quality of the new Nexus 7. A lot of people were saying that, the plastic is meh. But it's also it's a budget device, and it does attract a lot of fingerprints, but it's really, really nice in the hand, just like the Nexus 10.
Yeah, and you got to remember they're hitting that, again, really low price point. The Nexus 7 is a really low price point for the specs, and this Nexus 4 is only $349. So I'm not expecting super high-end premium materials. It's not exactly – not every high-priced phone has premium materials, but the Nexus 5 looks like it's going to be worth all of the price you're paying for it.
And more.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I was surprised to see the $349 price point pop up for the 16-gig version. And you can see that where the compromises have been made, though. We talked about the camera resolution taking a bump down, but we're in that area now where specs have gotten so good that you can do that. You can pull them back a little bit in certain areas and still have an awesome device, particularly with OIS in the case of the camera situation there. I don't know how that 2,300 milliamp hour battery is going to fare, but we'll see.
Well, I really don't get excited in terms of battery performance unless anything has over 3,000 milliamp hours. I don't think any smartphone should come with anything less than 3,000 milliamp hours, except for maybe the iPhone.
I'd be cool with 2,800. Because the Moto X performs really, really well, and I think pure Android has something to do with that. So at least I don't have abysmal hopes for the 2,300 milliamp hour, but I think it could be nice.
And the Moto X has those discrete processing elements that for like low power stuff, that contextual core takes a little bit of the load off and stuff.
Well, since I updated this morning or last night, apparently the battery life has been pretty bad. It may be because I've been using the Note 3 for 2 weeks, and it has great battery life, and this has okay battery life. So I feel kind of maybe that feeling is amplified a little bit. But I unplugged this morning at like 9 a.m. maybe, and it's at 74%, and it's been mostly in my pocket. So it's like I'm not happy.
Yeah. I want to talk about a phone with a big battery in 1 second, but before we leave the Nexus 5 entirely behind, I want to ask you guys, or I want to make a confession. I'm not as excited about the Nexus 5 as I was maybe a couple days ago. Actually, I haven't been all too excited about the Nexus 5 overall, but I'm less excited about it now because of what else is rumored to be coming from LG. Has this been dispelled yet, or is this still a thing? This curved device, this banana phone?
As far as I know, it's still a thing.
Yeah, it's still a thing.
I'm getting that.
LG officially said, didn't they officially say that we've got a curved?
This?
They didn't confirm the device, but they did say something about, I think they announced that they would release a curved device
LG
in October.
G Flex is the rumored name, with a 6-inch display. Will launch next month.
Could they get any worse with names?
Maybe. I don't care what it's called. This thing could be called
LG G2 and the LG
This
Flex.
thing could be called the LG Cow Pie, and I wouldn't care. Like, I'm going to buy it if it looks like
really,
this.
really well around here.
Wait, someone used to call a phone hotcakes.
Well,
that would be...
Yeah.
Everyone would want to sell like hotcakes. It would be perfect.
Exactly. It would be great. But I love this look. I mean, this is just incredible. The Samsung Galaxy Round was an interesting stunt and whatever, and if you put it in your pocket with the screen facing your leg, it'll like conform to your thigh, and I guess that's pretty cool.
Wrap around, it'll like transform and wrap around and give you a bionic leg.
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
But the LG G Flex is exactly what I have been hoping for ever since, what was it, the Nexus S. Remember how it had that slightly curved glass?
Yeah.
But the display wasn't curved, so it was just a kind of a trick, but I still liked that design. And when you held it up to your head, it was like, oh yes, this does slightly conform to my face, and I like that feeling.
Round face.
The shut up. The Palm Pre. I'm just remembering what I'm flashing back to. It was the original Pre. For all its build quality issues and all that stuff, when you extended the keyboard and talked on the phone, it wrapped around your face and it felt good. And not that I talk on the phone very often, but I don't know, there's something about this design really appeals to me. What am I alone on this show? Taylor, I don't care about your opinion. Marques, how do you feel about it?
I was looking at the pictures before, and I felt like it almost looked a little bit too curved. Like the way the Samsung Galaxy Round was curved was laterally, I guess, so it kind of wraps with your thigh when you put it, on your thigh. But when you hold it up to your face, it'll be a little bit awkward. So the LG device curves from top to bottom. But I was messing with the Galaxy Nexus actually earlier, and I felt like that was a good amount of curve, even though the actual display wasn't curved. It was just enough with the curved glass that it felt better.
Yeah, it needs to be
to
subtle.
hold up your face. Yeah, it has to be. This is not a subtle curve at all.
Yeah,
so
here's my problem.
Yeah,
what is it?
I still use the Lumia 1020. And if you lay that thing on a table, it does not lay flat. And if you try to scroll, you try to scroll in a Twitter app or whatever you're trying to use, it rocks back and forth and spins around on the table. It literally it's like a rodeo. It just does not sit still.
It's like a mechanical bull in a bar.
Yeah, and that's exactly, this thing is going to be like a top sitting on a table. If you try to scroll or something like that, it's just going to wobble around and spin, and it's not going to work that well laying flat on a table.
I'm gonna have it face down all the time, and we haven't seen the back of this thing. Maybe there's a secondary display on the back. Wouldn't that be cool?
No.
It would not be cool. You're right, but I would like it. Like
that battery life.
I've never become such an instant fan of a design as I have for this G Flex. Like, I started freaking out on Twitter. I think people started unfollowing me because I was getting crazy about it. But speaking of devices that wobble on a table a little bit and have giant batteries, I have an HTC One Max in my hand, and. Yeah. So this thing, HTC gave us early release hardware or pre-release hardware in London. I was able to review it. The review is up at Pocketnow. The comparisons are up at Pocketnow. Check them out, listeners, if you haven't already. I don't know what to do with this thing. I do not know how to integrate it into my life. I am convinced I never would. In a day-to-day circumstance, this almost feels like a phone that I want to leave at home and come home to at the end of the day, like a tablet.
That's how I felt about the Z Ultra. That thing was so obnoxiously large. God, just bringing up memories of that phone makes me have anxiety.
Yeah, so this is HTC's Z Ultra. It's HTC's Galaxy Mega. I mean, that's what this is. Mm-hmm. And
the Mega I didn't have as much problem with because it was like the Note 3 in that it was very minimal on the bezel. The Z Ultra, Sony was just like, oh, we don't care about bezel. Let's put a 4-inch bezel on the bottom of the phone, and it's.
And that's where they're all kind of like different form factors because also I haven't actually held it yet, but if it's as aluminum as the One, it's also way heavier than the Mega.
Oh God, yes.
Which is another huge
The Mega's
difference.
200 grams or something, and the One Max is 217 grams. So it's significantly heavy. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot.
199 on the Mega.
Okay. So, it's significantly heavier, and we're always thankful when HTC brings the aluminum love, but because of the design aesthetic that's been imported from the One Mini, this feels like a cheaper device.
Yeah, forget about
this plastic
headphones.
Ring on the side. Yeah,
forget about headphones in the box and stuff. It needs to come with a belt.
That would be awesome if phones got big enough that they came with a utility belt.
Belt and holster.
Yeah.
Well, no, this thing's so heavy it's just going to pull your pants down. If you put it in
just
your
a
pocket,
conventional belt. Yes.
Yeah, just a belt, just a leather belt.
Yeah.
Suspenders.
So it's
or suspenders. Yeah.
Aluminum.
Actually,
suspenders.
that would be hipper. It would have to come with suspenders and a bow tie, and then you'd have a real style icon on you.
Complete package.
Yeah. But when you use this thing to play games, when you use it to play video, when you use it to browse the web, I mean, it's awesome. Marques, I watched probably 4 of your videos this morning on the One Max, and man, if you're the type of person who watches movies on your phone and doesn't plug in headphones, first of all, don't do that in public. It's stupid and it's annoying. I hate people on the bus who do that. Second of all, if you do it at home, it's awesome. I mean, this phone is great for that. There's nothing that does it better. And I think that includes tablets, with the exception of Samsung's tablets with the front-firing speakers, but I don't even think they get this loud. And this thing is like a boombox. It's so loud.
Yeah, if you hold it close enough to your face, it's like going to an IMAX.
Kind of is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that, using the One Max is probably an awesome experience, and the awesome display, it's close to using like a tablet, but they still have yet I mean, with a phone that big, I don't think anyone's really nailed the overall experience. It's still kind of an experimental category anyway.
Yeah, well, I would beg to differ, at least in favor of the Note 3. But that's kind of a step down. That's kind of a step down in size.
I was saying over 6 and up.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, 6 and up. I mean, actually, the Max is what, 5.9? So that's technically.
So that's
it's still huge though.
Yeah, but
the Max has the boom sound speakers, which give it so much more vertical height.
Way more volume.
Yeah. One of the good things about not having as much volume, not having as much. Having more internal volume is that it doesn't heat up as rapidly as the original one. Because if you're using the original one to do anything processor intensive, like it gets to a point where you can still hold it. It's uncomfortably hot, but it also your hand starts sweating. So it's like
just don't overclock
it. Oh God, no! You would probably start to glow. I mean,
you don't remember
changes colors with the heat.
Yeah. You don't remember the overclock video I did with the One?
Oh, I messaged
about you. I'm like, oh crap! Like Brandon might kill me. I just killed her One.
Yeah, no,
I overclocked it to 2.2 or 2.3 gigahertz and or 2.1, something over 2 gigahertz, and it was 2.1, and it took about 4 or 5 minutes. I was shooting a video, and it was about 4 or 5 minutes into shooting, and it just powered off in the middle of doing something.
On high
and I'm like, oh, okay, random reboot, no big deal. I just flashed a new ROM, whatever. And I hit the power button, and nothing happened. And I held the power button for about a minute and a half, and nothing happened. So I plugged it up, and no LEDs turned on. I'm like, oh God, what are we gonna do? And I just walked away. I walked away for about 2 hours and came back, and nothing. Completely dead, dormant, doing its own thing. So I was like, okay, screw it. I'm gonna work on something else.
Wow.
And I was sitting there typing, and then it just powered on. It had been about 3.5 hours since I had killed it.
Wow.
And it just decided to turn on. I guess it was a fail-safe where it would just shut off so it didn't overheat. But
probably.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so scared. But don't ever do that with your HTC One.
So that was a heat issue.
Oh yeah, I couldn't touch it. The phone was so hot that I couldn't touch it.
Wow.
And the on-screen reading, like I was using the battery extension for dash clock. It was reading over 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
When I turned the phone on, so before it actually ran.
Yeah, I'm looking under the hood of the One Max now, and there's this like gap between the back cover and the polycarbonate interior. I don't know if it's polycarbonate, it's whatever the kind of plastic they're using here, and that air gap is really instrumental in this this thing not burning your hand off like the One does. Yeah. So that's one advantage. Are you going to get one to review, Marques, or are you just going to skip this one?
I'm considering it. I'm considering rounding up these gigantic phones because the biggest phone I own right now is the Note 3. But I reviewed the Mega, and that was surprisingly popular. Like, people actually cared about what that device was like to use and own. Really? And I still have the One, so yeah. The Mega was like a very, I wouldn't say like as popular as the Note 3 nearly, but it was like a surprisingly engaging video. Like, people really wanted to know what it was like to have a phone that big and how close it was to a tablet, and do you still need a tablet, or is a 7-inch tablet a waste? You should get a 10-inch tablet when you own a Mega, or all these types of questions. It's interesting.
That is interesting, because refresh my memory, because I don't know if Taylor has remembered this since we last spoke about it, but does the Mega allow for multi-screen?
Yes, it has pretty much all the same software features. It doesn't have necessarily the same hardware.
Right.
But there were some other, like, there's no S Pen obviously, so it's missing all those S Pen features. But other than that, it has like it's like an extended Galaxy S4. It's like someone stomped on an S4 and stretched it out.
It's like at least the one I had, I do remember it was like it missed all the S4 features. So it had all the S3 features with the multi-window.
Right. Yeah.
So it didn't have Smart Stay and Smart Pause
Smart Stay is a S3 feature.
Okay, so it had Smart Stay. I don't know. It may not have. I can't remember. I know it didn't have all of the features, and it was just kind of like, why would you make this new phone and not include all of your new stuff?
Well, but at the same time, then you've got somebody on the other side of the argument like me who's like, take that stuff off of there until you can perfect it.
Oh, no, I agree. Yeah. It's just, if Samsung's going to load down every one of its phones with its features, why skip out on this phone?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, it's kind of a consistency thing that bugs me. Not that I miss the features, because I obviously never use them, but it was a consistency thing. Like, hey, we're going to force these features down your throat, but sometimes we're not going to include all of them. Sometimes we are, and whatever. It's like, just make up your mind.
So what about that? So we're talking about these giant phones now. I want to pivot to the Note 3 because we've got some fresh reviews on that. But at some point, you do get to a point where your phone is so big that is it in fact a waste of money to buy a tablet in addition to it? And that's a solid question. And I think the Max has given me two sets of thoughts about this with regard to it. Like, I will hold the thing at points when I'm consuming media, when I'm watching a movie, when I'm playing Asphalt 8, which I'm still obsessed with. Like, and I'll be like, this is amazing. This is exactly. I understand why this device exists. I understand why people would buy it. But then I do something like where I want to use that added screen real estate to do the usual thing, like the tired old example of browsing Twitter while I'm watching a YouTube video, and I can't really do that, effectively as I can on a device that more intelligently uses the display. So it's like, this is very complicated. I'm either going to jump to a tablet or to the Note 3, and I think that's why so many people in our comments on our HTC One Max videos are just. Man, I mean, the Note 3 is the Note 3 crowd is strong on our One Max videos.
Brandon sent me a message. I think it was yesterday or the day before. He said, "Give me an example of when you would actually use multi-window." And I sent him two examples that I used probably every single day, multiple times each day while I reviewed it. And one was I would open Google Play Music and shrink it down to the bottom so I had the music controls at the bottom of the screen. And then I would have Chrome or Plume or Facebook or one of the other supported apps at the top and be using that. So I had music control at the bottom and could scroll through. And the other was putting a YouTube video at the top and shrinking the window down to the size of just the video and scrolling through another app.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh. He's like, that's a good idea.
It's freaking crazy because Brandon was in the car the first time I found multi-window useful, which was when he was driving, I was the passenger, and I had Google Maps in one pane and Twitter in the other. Like, and I presented that use case at HTC because, I mean, I guess I was harping on this point a little heavily. I was like, you got to use the screen size, and somebody at HTC was like, listen, when do you find multi-window useful? And I didn't phrase things properly, so I tried to use that while driving example, and I ended up just sounding like an idiot. So
you use that thing when you have that one thing in one window.
Like,
when I want to do the two things, but I only have the one thing.
You guys know, exactly.
No, but I've done the exact same thing with having. I'm in the passenger seat, and I need to give driving navigation directions to the person who's driving.
Yes.
But I also want to scroll through Twitter at the same time, and I don't feel like switching back and forth. So he says, "Is this the correct right-hand turn?" And I have to switch back into the multitasking and then go back to Maps quickly. Oh yeah, make it right here.
Right.
Or I could just have multi-window up and constantly have the visual navigation up top and scroll through Twitter. And whenever he needs directions, I can just say, "Yeah, that's what I'm seeing."
That's exactly right.
And
sometimes there's a really good use case.
You guys are really making me miss the Note 3 already. I shipped it out. I shipped it out this morning at like 9, and I'm like, I weeped a little bit. My roommate woke up and I had some really bad allergies, and he came around the corner. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just crying. I have to send this phone off."
Talk to me after the podcast, because are you going to buy one, Taylor? I want to talk about the Note 3. I want you guys to talk together about the Note 3 because you both have excellent reviews up. I reviewed the original Note 3 for Pocketnow. Taylor just got done reviewing the AT&T one. Marques, obviously, you reviewed a white one. Was that an unlocked one or what?
I had an unlocked one. I'm holding the AT&T one right now, which is black.
I also am holding the AT&T one right now, which is black too. And so I loved watching your review when you were talking about the white battery cover and how it, yes, it looks like leather, but it doesn't feel like leather. It feels like plastic. Are you also having that moment on the black one right now where you're like, oh my God, this feels like leather?
Yes. I was really I saw all the hands-on videos on people on YouTube, and I think they all had the black one, and they were all like, yeah, really, it feels like leather. It's great. It's soft touch. And I'm like, oh, awesome. That's going to be great. Then I got I was thinking the reason I think it's different is because the white one, if it was made of the same soft touch material and it was white still, then I feel like it could easily stain. It could, if you put it in your blue jeans pockets, you could turn it blue by accident. So I got the white one in, and it was just this typical hardened textured plastic, no sense of soft touch or leather at all. So I just had to mention it, guys, this is not leather feeling at all. So you have to know, at least that's how I feel about it. So I mentioned that in the review of the white one, And then not too long ago, I have this black one, and first thing I do is take it out the box, and oh my god, it feels like leather. It's soft touch. The black one is very, very different feeling on the outside, on the back.
And I'm kind of upset. I actually got my first hands-on experience with a white with the Note 10.1. It came in yesterday, and it's white, and it's that hard, slick plastic, and I'm like, I wish it was black.
No,
and so wish it was black.
The black material is so soft and so nice and grippy that I initially thought when I unboxed it that it was because it was a second wave unit that like someone like really greasy had last used it. So I'm trying to like wipe the thing off, and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's how it's supposed to be. Oh well, this is nice then. Yeah.
Oh, this is nice.
It feels like you're getting on it feels like you're getting on like a nice airplane, like if you're flying business class and like you know it's the first plane of the day because it's like 7 a.m. and you sit down and the armrest is nice and it's just been wiped down. Like that's how it feels, I imagine.
Yeah. Except for you just paralleled it with some greasy dude's hands.
No, bro, because it's the first plane of the day, bruh.
No, you just paralleled the Note 3. You're like, oh, did somebody with greasy hands review this?
Yeah. It was an imperfect comparison. You're right. Yeah,
way to go.
Shut up. Anyway,
I love greasy hand feeling.
Greasy. Let's get Galaxy Note greasy.
It's probably best if you don't send me another Note 3, because if you do before I'm done with this Note 10.1 review, I will not use the Note 10.1. I forget about 10-inch tablets so quickly these days.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that. I mean, do the Note 3 is, I know it's been pretty extensively covered. I kind of wanted to just throw it in here in case Marques had anything interesting to add to it, but we can definitely move on if we want to talk about that 10.1.
Well, can I throw in something that really irks me, and I'm actually going to write
You're outdoing yourself. You started a segue and then you stomped on your own segue. Yeah, go ahead. Nice. I think that's a
that was not a burp.
First.
That was not a burp. Thank you.
It sure was.
No, it wasn't. I did it. I would know. So it just irks me. I'm probably going to write an editorial about it. But Samsung is killing everything that is not theirs. So, with the exception of Google Play. So you can still get the full function of Google Play, but the Pebble. We talked about this. I haven't used my Pebble in 2 weeks because it just didn't work with the Samsung, or the Note 3 so well.
It doesn't.
Because you had to turn off all the other features to make it work.
Yeah.
So you can't use multi-window if you have the Pebble connected, which is the stupidest thing.
Insanely dumb thing ever, isn't it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You can't use AirView, you can't with your multi-window, like a bunch of the Samsung features don't work.
And it's the stupidest thing. Like, why? But I made a video last night. It was the last video I made. It was about SwiftKey and the new update with the various layouts, and they have a floating keyboard now. The floating keyboard is the keyboard I used on the Note 3 for the entire review because it was just so nice. I would always pull out the S Pen, and typing on the full keyboard with the S Pen is not as great because it's a lot more accurate than your finger, and you don't need to swipe as much. So if you use the floating keyboard with the S Pen, it's a lot easier and a little more accurate. So I installed the new SwiftKey and popped out the floating keyboard, and it works perfectly fine until you open multi-window. When you open multi-window, you can only type in one of the windows. So if you want to type in the bottom window and try to use a third-party keyboard, it doesn't type.
Oh, right.
But oh my gosh, I was like, what? Oh my, why, Samsung, why? And I don't know if it's Samsung or maybe SwiftKey just hasn't. Maybe it's a thing where you would have to hard code it to be able to type into two different applications at once. I have no idea. But that just, oh man, it crushed me so much last night because I don't really like Samsung's keyboard. I know it's powered by Swipe or SwiftKey.
Yeah, I'm not a giant fan either, except for that persistent number row up top, which is very handy.
Yes, that is awesome.
That's nice.
Yeah. But that just like ruined me. I was so excited about SwiftKey. And being able to use SwiftKey as a floating keyboard in multi-window, and it doesn't work.
No, but your broader point is very valid. Like Samsung's TouchWiz property does not really interact well with other stuff.
Yeah, so sucks. The editorial headline will be something like "Samsung is killing Android."
Sweet.
Sensationalism.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Before we move on to the 10.1 accessory-wise, Taylor, I know you have not handled it yet. Marques, did you spend any time with the Gear, or will you spend any time with the Gear, or what's your story?
So I told myself, no, I'll never spend any time with the Gear. And then Samsung reached out and said, hey, want to spend some time with the Gear? And I was like, yeah, I'll spend some time with the Gear.
That's the way it goes.
So now I'm spending some time with the Gear.
So you have it?
Yeah. I have the I believe it's called Wild Orange. I want to say.
Oh, you've got
the orange one.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's
yours is the one that people mistook my Pebble for.
Yeah.
So I put that orange band on there. Somebody's like, "Is that the Galaxy Watch?" Oh, it is not.
No, it's very different. Like, I've never owned a smartwatch, never owned a Pebble. So this is coming from the perspective of someone who's never had to deal with anything on their wrist for like years.
Okay.
So this is definitely a new thing for me. So I'm going to be talking a lot about how I never use a watch, and this is something that's going to have to convince me to use it rather than just being a replacement to something I already had.
How's it doing?
So far, it's mixed. It's very mixed. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't see, like, the whole notification deal, obviously, it's not very helpful. It doesn't really add all that much to the experience of using your Note 3 and now the S4. But at the same time, it has that cool factor. People ask about it. People who usually never talk to me about tech would be like, "Hey, that's the Samsung watch, right? How is that?" Dude, I'm like, "Wow, how do you know like about this stuff?"
That is the same exact experience I've been having, because I've been wearing the Pebble for like 6 months, and people either don't notice it, or when they notice it, they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And then I tell them, "Oh, it's the Pebble," and then I have to explain to them what it is. But this thing, in the last 2 days, more than 3 times, people have come up to me and been, not strangers, but friends or whatever, they see what I'm wearing, like, "Oh, that's that Samsung thing. Oh, how is it?" Like, it's instantly recognizable because of that amazing commercial of theirs.
It's crazy.
Or the wart on the side of it.
That's gotten less attention, actually.
Exactly. No, I'm surprised at how many people have not even noticed the camera until I've pointed it out. Like, I'll fire up the viewfinder and they'll be like, "No way," and they'll start looking for the camera lens.
Yeah.
So
sweet pictures, bro.
I've been posting actually a lot of pictures from the gear on Twitter. I've been having a good time with it, and I've been shooting a lot of creepy video as well, just to be like, because I'm thinking of throwing this editorial together where it's just like, you can be a real creep with the Galaxy Gear, please don't. Because no one is expecting this. At least if you're wearing Galaxy Glass, people see that you're wearing like a Borg headset, or Google Glass. People can see that you're wearing like a Borg headset, and they're like, "Oh, you're probably doing something creepy." But no one's going to expect that your watch has a camera in it.
Yeah.
And if you're wearing the black wristband, the lens is not really identifiable. So.
Same. Yeah.
But I think it's cool. I mean, the notification problem is profound. On my Pebble, when I get a notification, I can read almost the entire thing on the screen, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Hangouts, Gmail, text, whatever. On the Galaxy Gear, that's very helpful. On the Galaxy Gear, like, I've gotten probably 7 or 8 notifications since this podcast started, and 90% of them have been completely unreadable because they're not through the stock Samsung messaging or email app. Like, it's like, I tap on it, it's like, "Oh, open this notification on your phone if you want to know more." I'm like, no, that's why I'm wearing the watch.
Yeah, thanks.
Sweet.
Thanks for telling me.
Someone decided to fire up a vacuum cleaner outside my door.
Is that right?
Yes. Awesome.
Thank
you, bro.
You're right.
I can't hear you
so much.
You're good.
No, you're good.
Thanks.
Yeah. So,
can I just say that, Michael, you're enamored by this for one reason and one reason only. You wrote an editorial about it yesterday.
I did. I wrote an editorial called "The Galaxy Gear Doesn't Deserve the Crap It's Getting."
And what was my takeaway from that?
Taylor's perspective on this is, well, I can't find the tweet now. What was it, Taylor?
I can read it to you or try to spit it off the top of my head.
I asked Taylor to take a look at it. I was like, "Hey, man, would you take a look at it?" I don't know if I'm being clear. I think I'm just kind of making a spurious, stupid point. And, maybe I was. But what did he say? I can't find your thing that I retweeted, but I like it.
Also, rather than the Gear getting crap because it isn't awesome, you think it shouldn't get crap because you're a middle-aged sucker for nostalgia.
Yeah, that was it. And it's true. I mean, the commercials have played a massive role in my being excited about this device. But Samsung is getting other stuff right too. You take this thing off your wrist and just look at it. It is well designed. I think it's a better hardware design than the Pebble. It's not as big or clunky as it appears. And the inclusion of the voice interface means that you can be that guy talking into your wrist. And in public, that looks weird, but it also triggers all these memories of, like, I legitimately did that as a kid. Like, as an 8-year-old or whatever, I, pretended to be talking into my wristwatch because I was whoever. Like,
I did too. I got one of those Casio calculator watches just because it looked cool.
I wanted one of those just because it looked like Penny's computer watch. Like, so being able to do that, like I did at the convenience store last night, and legitimately doing that stupid use case that you think never comes up, but it's like getting my roommate on the phone through my wrist and being like, "Hey, do we need any milk?" Like, that's cool as hell, you know?
Can I just say that it's cool, but you still have to use S-Voice with it. So
you don't have to. You can dial out, and you can select contacts. You don't have to use
S-Voice. Like, no, if you use voice commands,
but
you have to use S-Voice.
Yeah, like
which
function.
sucks. Yeah,
exactly. So that kind of defeats the purpose. It's like,
no,
you know, this really cool feature, and then I have to use the worst software ever.
So that's true. If there were a direct Google Now portal there,
I would buy it.
Oh,
I would
spend
$300 to buy it if I could Google Now from my watch.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, that could very well be the Google Watch. But by the way, I almost made a video just on the most pointless technologies that we still use. And S-Voice was going to be really high on that list.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it's sandwiched somewhere in between the originality of Siri and the usefulness of Google Now, but it doesn't actually do anything better than anything.
No, it doesn't.
And it's sitting there because Samsung is just sitting it there. I don't know.
And then when you use it through the Gear, you have that added latency of it has to go talk to the phone, then the phone has to talk to the Gear.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like,
so the delay makes it even worse, and it's just not fun.
It's such a bad product. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the worst things, I guess one of the worst oversights with voice control, like touchless control in the Moto X, is when you just randomly say Google Now, the phone goes crazy.
Yes.
It did that to me a minute ago. Like, I looked over and I'm like, why is my phone searching? And I realized I said, okay, Google Now.
Oh, nice.
That was fun. And the best part is very few people experience this, but when you're editing a video about the Moto X, and you keep going over the part where you're demoing.
You say it in the narration.
Yeah, then your phone searches it. But what was funny was so when I did the whole review, most of the review on a single day, it was like I had the phone, did the search in the video, and then after it, while I'm editing, while I'm playing back that part of the video, it searched at the same time and read back the same exact answer at the exact same time. So it was almost like it was amplifying the sound coming out of the computer. It was really weird.
That's really weird. I had the problem. I had the Droid Ultra and the Moto X sitting beside my computer, and I played back a video from YouTube. I was looking for something somebody asked for, and it was talking about playing music. So I said in the video, it was like, okay, Google, now play this song. And both of the phones played the same song at the same time, so it was just like, all at once.
It's trippy.
Well, we're coming to the end of the Android portion of the podcast. We still have one more Galaxy product to get through before we do that, and that's the Note 10.1. And Taylor, we talked about this a little bit. Which, by the way, you could pair that with the Galaxy Gear, too, if you wanted to carry around.
Well, I don't have one.
And have the Galaxy Gear. I know. I have one. It's great.
Good for you. Send it to me when I can Google Now from it.
Sounds good. All right. We'll sideload. It'll work all right. But tell me about the 10.1 in the meantime, because there's a thing, and Marques, I don't know if this has been the case for you at press events, but it seems that every time I've run into either a Galaxy Tab or a Galaxy Note on the trade floor, above and beyond the usual kind of bugginess that demo devices have on the trade floor, the Notes and the Tabs just sort of seem to be really broken all the time. Is that consistent?
Yeah, so I can vouch for going into, this is even a little bit more different, but going into like a retail store, like a Best Buy, and just picking up they'll have the iPad stands and you'll flip through pages and it'll be totally fine. And then next to it, they'll have the Galaxy Tab 10.1, for example, and it'll just suck. It'll be incredibly slow, broken, janky, laggy. It's just, wow. It's terrible. So that, I don't know if that speaks to like, maybe it's an accelerated aging where like hundreds of people come in and play with it every day, and you get a sense of what the device will be like in maybe a year or two, and then it's clearly way, way worse than it should be out the box.
That's an interesting way to put it. I mean, like, accelerated aging is exactly what happens on a retail floor. Like, I used to work selling phones, and I would see what people would do to these demo units, and it's just, God, what are you trying to do here? Like, and they
sneeze and sneeze, and as and they try to cover their mouth, but instead they don't put the phone down and cover it with their free hand. They're like right on the phone.
I've seen kids drop ice cream, like dribble ice cream from their ice cream cone onto demo phones.
Yeah,
that's great. I have to clean that up. Thanks.
Yeah, a kid came into my little, I don't know what you would call it, just
kiosk?
section. Yeah, when I was working in Best Buy, and he had a blue slushie, and I'll say he had an upset stomach as he was looking at a phone with a blue slushie.
Oh,
so
dear
the whole
God.
the whole plinth was blue. It's like, oh. That was iPhone launch day too. So it was like, it wasn't a slow day. It's just like iPhone 4 launch day. So everybody was going nuts.
So here's the story. So here's the question though. We know these demo units are pretty bad. We know the retail units are horrible. What is the story in a fresh out-of-box situation? What's the story after a day or so of use, Taylor, with the 10.1?
Man, I really want to like this thing. I love the Note 3. I can't say that enough. And I really, really, really want to like this thing because it is a Note 3 on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. But unlike the AT&T Note 3, this one's more like the international Note 3, and it has the Octa inside. And I have to say, I've really kind of lost faith in Exynos because it took all of 5 minutes for this thing to start lagging and skipping and losing frame rates. Or dropping frame rates. And it's great because you get multi-window, you get all the useful features. And then Samsung, like, it's like Samsung doesn't understand that, or I don't want to say that. Okay, so they put all their effort into the Note 3 and put all the utility you can possibly squeeze into a 5.7-inch screen, right? And then you jump up to a 10-inch display using the same software, and it's not really optimized for a 10-inch screen. So you pull down the notification shade, and it's full screen on a 10-inch display. Wow. So your notifications span the whole entire screen. It's like, why? You obviously understand how to utilize display space, yet you continue to do this with every tablet you've ever made.
Yeah, I don't know.
It just, oh my gosh, it just drives me up the wall because this tablet feels the most polished I've ever felt out of Samsung. The hardware is great. It's just like the
I love the stitching on the back. That thing is cool to hold.
Just like the Note 3 hardware.
Yeah.
It's got the same exact S Pen, and it's got all the same S Pen features, multi-window. It has everything. I sat on my couch last night watching YouTube in one window and on Twitter with the other, with the official tablet Twitter app.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Awesome.
Which, by the way, only really works on
this tablet.
One tablet. Nice.
So everything's going great, and then I get a notification. I pull down the shade, and it's like 3 notifications or 4 notifications per page. Like you have to scroll. I'm like, this is a 10-inch tablet.
It's a 2560 by 1600 display. And it should really be better at that.
Yeah, and I would venture to say that one notification is 1 million pixels. One notification is probably 1 million pixels.
Wow. That's a great stat line, actually.
Like, that just, oh my gosh, why? Why? Wow. Like, I could literally rant about this for hours, and it just, Samsung is so close, but they do this every single time. Every time. So there's that, and plus it's running the octa-core processor. So 1.9 quad-core, 1.9 gigahertz quad-core chip on one end, and you've got a 1.3 gigahertz quad-core chip working together, and it lags. so
well, that's disappointing. You know, I keep wanting I was there for the first Note 10.1 reveal, and I keep wanting the software to be better with each iteration, and it just doesn't get there. And I think there's going to be a sea change at some point here where Samsung really does something cool, and the company decides to revise TouchWiz to a considerable degree, and that's going to be great.
Or just completely demolish it, because that would be fun too. I would watch a video. It would, but the delete button and start fresh.
The company has some good ideas, like S Finder is a good one. The Air Command stuff for the S Pen is pretty cool. And even the aesthetic design of the Samsung Hub, even if the content is total crap, like the design of the app is pretty cool. So the company can do stuff like that. It's just stuck in this old, bloated, nasty, heavy, ineffective TouchWiz, and I don't know. Yeah. You know, apparently not enough people feel the same way because millions of these are going out the door. But that's not a permanent situation. So I really, really hope they advance soon.
I'll put it this way, though. So it's been having some problems within the first 24 hours. But out of all the Android tablets I've ever owned, this is probably the one that I would buy. If I were going to buy a 10-inch tablet, just because it has so many value adds to it that none of the other tablets do.
Isn't that funny? Like, we've just spent 15 minutes kind of talking total garbage about this thing, And yet, it is the tablet you would probably choose if you were to buy an Android tablet. See, this is why it's important to, read entire reviews and listen all the way through to things.
Yeah. Okay, so today,
Not that I'm talking to commenters or anything. Go ahead.
Right now, I own one 10-inch tablet, and it's the Nexus 10, and I've owned it since I first got it.
Oh, I love the Nexus 10.
It's the only tablet I've owned for that long. Like, I never really keep tablets around that long, but this is the only 10-inch tablet that I can really use. It almost never lags. It's obviously pure Android, but it has none of the tablet features that the Galaxy Tab has. So it's a little bit weird in that sense. But I really don't use a lot of that stuff. I really only use full-screen apps. I watch a lot of YouTube videos and do a lot of web browsing on it. So and reading textbooks. So for what I use it for, it's perfect, and I wouldn't really ever want to use anything else. I feel like I'll get my hands on the next Nexus 10, but right now, it's still the only 10-inch tablet that I would want.
Isn't that
for the first time in my life, there's just one thing that I wish Google would just straight up and blatantly steal from Samsung, and that is multi-window.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. I wish Google was like, you know what? You're terrible at making software, at least in an effective way for the overall experience. So, in your
We're
face.
just going to take this. Yeah.
Everyone
else is doing it. I mean, everyone else is stealing from each other. Let's talk about one last thing in Android. We're going to power through the other two sections because they're tiny, and then we're going to get to listener mail, which I'm really looking forward to.
Because I'm awesome at just destroying your segues. I want to say that the LTE model comes with a Snapdragon 800 in the Nexus or the Note 10.
Note 10.1?
Yeah, so I didn't quite finish my statement. If I were to get one, I would probably get the LTE model.
I would not blame you. That's the one I would probably get too.
Good call.
I agree with you on the Exynos thing. I've seldom had a better experience with an Exynos chip than I have with a Snapdragon one. And that holds true for Tegra too. Actually, the Snapdragon stuff is usually far superior in my experience.
Well, you haven't used the Tegra 4.
I'm sorry, I meant Tegra 3. No, you're right.
Okay, yeah. The Tegra 4 is
Tegra 4 is awesome.
It is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. But I do have a problem with your rundown, and it probably stems from the fact that you either one didn't read the review or didn't watch it.
What are you talking about? Your automatic thing?
Yeah, it's not available for Android.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, I did in fact watch it. It's stuck on iOS. I don't know. I just wanted to put it. It seemed like it fit here. And actually, it's nice. It's nice that it does appear at this point in the rundown because I have to get some more tea because I'm starting to get stuffed up again, as you can probably hear. So I want you, and because I have read it,
you just sound like crap all the time.
I want you to tell Marques about it in case he hasn't watched it, and tell our listeners about how what a fun time you had in your automobile. And by the way, listeners, if you haven't looked at this video, Marques, have you seen it yet?
No, I'm just seeing this link now.
Taylor Martin starts out this video with like the most earnest piece of voiceover line ever. He's like, I forgot how it goes, but he's just kind of like,
I quite enjoy driving my car.
Yeah, I quite enjoy driving in my car. And I'm like, oh, you are precious.
Nice.
Thank you. I've been watching a lot of car reviews. So,
have you been watching any of my Auto Trader reviews from back in the day?
No. What? You did Auto Trader reviews?
Yeah, I did a bunch of them. All right, I will be right back. You tell us all about your automatic review, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, this is in the Android part of the rundown, and I figure Michael will fix that before this goes live. It actually isn't available for Android yet. It'll be released as a beta for Android in December. So right now, Automatic actually only works for iOS. But what it is, it's a pair. It's an application that you download for your iPhone that is free. And then there's a module, which is $100 that you buy, and it plugs into the OBD2 sensor or OBD2 port in your car, which is beneath the steering wheel.
Okay.
And what it does, it's got a little speaker on the backside of it, and when you hit the gas too hard, it chirps at you. If you hit the brakes too hard, it chirps, and if you speed, it chirps. And speeding, by the way that they define it, is driving over 70 miles per hour. So
just all the time.
Well, yeah, if you exceed 70 miles per hour,
then it just assumes
chirps.
You're speeding. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the first tiny little itty-bitty faults, is because there's a road here in Charlotte where the speed limit is 70 miles an hour. Right. So you're actually not speeding, but this thing sees that you're speeding. So there are some quirks with it. Like, my car requires premium gasoline. This only takes prices from the local prices from regular gasoline. But what it does is it tracks all of your driving. The entire time your car is on, it transmits data to your iPhone. And by the time, like when you turn off the car, it finishes transferring data over, and then it processes your drive and scores it out of 100. And it gives you a number rating, a summary for the entire week, how you've driven, how many miles you've driven, how much time you've spent driving, your fuel economy, all kinds of information on your drive and how you've been driving for the week. And what it does is it aims to make you drive slower or I guess more cautiously, save money. And if you crash, it has an inbuilt accelerometer, and it determines that you've been in an accident.
Right.
And it reports the accident to the local authorities, and it sends a text message out to 3 preset contacts. So it says, I've been in an accident, help is on the way, and this is my location. So it's got a lot of cool features to it, and possibly the coolest part, and I'm actually doing a poll on this right now. I didn't quite finish it before the podcast, but I'm doing a poll, and what it does is it actually also operates as an OBD2 reader. So if your check engine light comes on, it tells you what's happening with your car.
And it can talk to your phone.
Yeah, so it gives you the code, so the engine code, and a description of what's happening, a link to local mechanics, and the ability to clear the code right then and there. So there's a lot of cool stuff just wrapped into this little itty-bitty thing.
Wow, and that's only 100. That's So you said before it gives you a score for when you're driving. What is the score like? Is that better fuel economy equals better score or better?
Yeah, so it's a really arbitrary number. It's just 0
like
to 100.
Points, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, that I actually paralleled it to fuel points in the review. I said, like with the fuel ban, you really don't know what this number means.
Okay.
But you know that the higher the number, the better you're driving. So the closer to 100 you are, the better you're driving. And I kind of paralleled it with a number grade or a letter grade. So an A is 90 to 100. Basically, if you're below a 70, you probably need to pay a little more attention to what you're doing.
Okay.
So, yeah, nice. and it helps you. Well, one thing it does, the way it actually figures out the price of each drive. So it breaks down the price of or how much money you're spending on each individual drive. So every time you crank up your car and drive a mile down the road or 10 miles, 100 miles, it doesn't matter. It tells you how much that drive cost you.
Okay.
And it pulls actual local gas prices each time you drive. And that's kind of another problem with it, is you don't pay for gas every time you drive your car. You only pay for gas when you go to the gas station. So It's pulling gasoline data or prices for gasoline, which are probably different from when you actually filled up your car. So there's some quirks to it, but it still does the same thing. It all kind of comes together and works.
Some stuff could be changed with a software update, like the whole only using regular gas prices thing.
Yeah.
I figured the price tracking could be useful just for carpooling, because I know for ultimate tournaments for college, we often take like 5 people in a car and then reimburse the driver later for approximately how much gas he used to drive us. So whenever I'm taking places.
Premium gasoline will be added in an update very soon. That's at least what they tell me. And a friend actually asked me on Facebook last night, she said, how would this work for tracking business expenses for driving? And then it dawned on me, I'm like,
perfect.
This thing is awesome. I hadn't even thought about that, because I have a CPA, and he does my taxes, he does my payroll every month, and basically he asks me, how much have you driven this month? I have no idea. I don't know. Do you think I track that? So with this, all I have to do is basically either one, I hope they add an export option where you can export all of your driving data, but they don't have that right now, at least what I've found. But the ability to basically just go through and look at everything I've done that month and just jot it down and say, hey, this is how much I've spent. Nice. Boom, done. 2 seconds. It's awesome. We're
going to have, this isn't the only automotive exposure we're going to have on this show. We're going to have a question in listener mail for a second, but I wasn't here for some of this, Taylor. Did you mention at what point this might come to devices other than iOS devices?
I did, yes. They have no plans for BlackBerry or Windows Phone.
What a shocker. Yay.
Android will come as a beta in December.
Oh, all right. So you don't have that long to wait if you want to try this out.
You don't have long. A lot of people who watched the review and read it commented that there's something that's available that's exactly like this for Android, and it's called Torque. It's an application that you can get for like $3 or $4, and you use a Bluetooth OBD2 reader, and it basically transmits that information to your phone.
Interesting.
The application is probably one of the ugliest applications I've ever seen in my life.
I bet the fit and finish is nowhere near as good as it is.
Oh my gosh, it's so ugly. And everyone who has commented that completely missed the point of automatic. Because one, if you wreck, it automatically tells the authorities and your family that, you know, you've been in an accident and help is on the way. And two, it tracks your data 100% just all the time and helps you save money. Like it beeps at you when you're wasting money, basically. Right. Torque doesn't do that. So there are some reasons that this is worth $100 where the other one isn't. This one gives you gas prices, real-time gas prices based on your location. Yeah. It saves the location of your car. So if you get out of your car somewhere and you forget where you parked, it's got the GPS location of your car. It's got everything.
I've got this really sweet like counterpoint here, but I don't want to spoil the listener mail, so I'm going to wait for it for later on. I have a question from Marques. Okay, let's move into iOS while we're talking about iOS devices. Taylor, thank you for that awesome review, which features you in your car a whole lot, which I think is pretty cool. And can we just power through this iOS stuff? There have been these leaked photos that have come out, not leaks, but like Mr. Blurry Cam photos of somebody measuring purportedly the new iPads with a set of calipers, and it's like really some crazy like Terminator level stuff. That's like oh, this is crazy. Look at these awesome calipers with this readout, and it's cool. Like if it is indeed the new iPad or the new set of iPads, then these things are going to be pretty thin. We have one story calling for the iPad 5 to be, what is it? 7.35 millimeters.
Jeez.
Yeah, and from the current, it's 9.4. Go ahead.
When I see that, I think I immediately think battery, because I remember going from the iPad 2 to the from the iPad 2 to the iPad 3. The only change was the Retina display and then the bigger battery, which made it thicker. So now moving back down thinner immediately brings my questions back to, well, how's the battery? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's actually smaller or thinner than the iPad Mini.
Wow.
You know, the iPad Mini is 7.9.
The current iPad Mini.
7.2 millimeters. So it's actually 0.1 millimeters thicker. 0.15 actually. Sorry.
All right. So wait. So
I was looking at 7.9 inches.
And then the new one, the new iPad Mini is rumored, but in the same set of blurry cam photos, to be 6.8 millimeters.
Dear God, why?
You know, see, I was expecting it to be thicker because I'm expecting a Retina display.
Right. So and no, this casts doubt on that. But then there's a lot of people saying the opposite thing, saying that the Retina display is much more likely. I tend to think the Retina display is more likely. I mean, they had to take notice of some of the blowback they got for not including that in the Mini. But of course, the Mini sold just fine in spite of that. But I didn't buy one. I think a lot of people are waiting for a high-res panel on this thing.
Yeah, okay.
I just have to say, for the Mini, a lot of people are like, oh, you hate iOS, you'll never use iOS devices. And I just reviewed the iPhone 5S, and I have my thoughts on that. But the iPad Mini, to me, is the best tablet. Like, I would never... The only reason I don't use the iPad Mini is the display is unbearably bad to me.
Yes.
That's the biggest and only problem I have with the iPad Mini. So when that comes out, I will be putting it head-to-head against my Nexus 7 and deciding once and for all where my money will stay. But the biggest problem I have with it is the battery, the Retina display. Yeah. So if it's just, thinner, and if a whole bunch of improvements change and it runs iOS 7 and it's all improved, but it doesn't have a Retina display, I am absolutely not going to buy it because it doesn't have what I want it to have to get me to consider buying it. I love the display on the Nexus 7, so I'd be really, really disappointed if there wasn't a much higher resolution display on the new iPad Mini.
Yeah, Apple's under a considerable amount of pressure because the original iPad Mini was a compromise for them. They pride themselves in high profit margins on every product ever, and the iPad Mini they took a hit in profit margins. Mm-hmm. So it cost them more to make it than they wanted, and that was without a Retina display. If the price of the components have come down, then yes, we'll see it. Mm-hmm. If not, then I don't know if they will, because you think about it, it's going to have the same resolution display as the full-size iPad. It would have to. Because if it didn't, then it wouldn't be Retina, right? So you're going to have about 300 pixels per inch, I believe, if I do my math correctly.
Right. Right, and this is a question that I had. I mean, there is always the question of app scaling, right? So they have to do, what do they have to do? They have to do a clean double like they did last time? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and that's a lot of pixels. That's a much more expensive component. Yes, these things are all true, but I just can't imagine that they'd be willing to suffer the backlash if they didn't do this, because it's going to be profound.
Yeah, that would put them at 324 pixels per inch, which on a tablet is insane. Yeah, it's great. So that's 2048 by 1536 for anyone.
Do you think I'm right or wrong on that, though? I mean, like, if Apple released an iPad Mini 2 that did not have a Retina display, do you think people would continue to buy it, or do you think that the outrage would bleed over from the tech media to the regular media?
It's such a terrible panel. Like, the one that's on the Mini now is so bad. The color reproduction is pretty bad. And then you can see individual pixels. It is like using a scaled-down original iPad. It's that bad. And everything else in this space, with the exception of Samsung tablets,
are very high res.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking, Marques?
I'm thinking, well, the two different questions. The one, will people buy it? I think inevitably people will still buy it anyway. Mm-hmm. But the backlash from not including the Retina display would be absolutely huge. And I think that would be one of the biggest disappointing things about it. And I have no doubts it would spill over into, I guess what you would say, between tech media and regular media, just talking about this device. Like, why doesn't it have a Retina display? And we're also expecting other parts of Apple's lineup to be updated specifically to have a Retina display. So it would be really odd if it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I almost made a sheep noise there.
I'm glad that you didn't. I'm glad that you did, because I ban commenters for less. So, don't. We're going to get out of here. We're going to find there's a button on the front of your Yeti, Taylor. Push it. We have we still have a lot to cover, goes the tagline on the Apple invite, and it has been extended to press outlets for October 22nd, so we're going to find out more next week. I think next week's weekly is going to be like freaking stupid long, so get ready. It's going to be cool. So we'll find out more on October 22nd about Apple. Let's jump over to Windows Phone real quickly and Windows in general. Jaime has an interesting piece. I like it when Jaime writes about Windows Phone because it guarantees 4,000 comments and, death threats. But this was a news story, it looks like, and it wasn't an editorial, so I'm sorry about that. Nokia owns 90% of the Windows Phone market share. Actually, Windows Phone 8 market share.
I believe.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not a big surprise to anyone, right?
Yeah.
But to see it broken down versus HTC and Samsung is not a huge surprise, but to see it broken down internally, it's amazing to see that the Lumia 520 owns like 23% of that market share. So Nokia's low-end strategy, sort of really paid off in that respect, I think. And that's why we've been dedicating a lot of column inches in the past couple weeks to editorials about Windows Phone on the low end and how Microsoft has to continue that focus after the acquisition completes. So it's interesting stuff. If you're a kind of a numbers geek, there's nothing really mind-blowing inside there, but we should get a giant avalanche of new hardware news from Abu Dhabi on Tuesday, the same day as the Apple event, as we said earlier.
It's going to be a crazy week.
Oh, my God.
Also, I missed everything you said because I went outside my door to see what the noise was, and it sounds like somebody is listening to an old man audiobook. Like an old man reading a book, really loud. I don't know. This is such a weird Friday. Yeah, well, I was like, what is that? It actually sounded like
Right now on the YouTube feed, someone is typing, "Nobody cares, Taylor." But go ahead.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. It sounds like a prayer, actually, like in a different language.
Maybe get out of that building.
Yeah, right? I don't know what's going on right now. Such a weird day.
What we're expecting from Abu Dhabi is the Lumia 1520 phablet. We're expecting possibly to see the Lumia 929 and almost certainly to see this Nokia tablet. Marques, do you spend any time with Windows products at all? Off the desktop, mobile?
Yeah, I had the Lumia 1020 in for a while, and I really liked that, actually. It was a mixed bag because I still had problems with the display, and there were some other minor tweaks, some things that still irk me about Windows Phone, but I have spent quite a bit of time with that one particular device.
Cool. Yeah, and so have we, obviously, and we've got a lot of them spread across the team here, and it'll be very nice to see. I mean, GDR3 is going to bring some stuff to it that wraps us up on Windows Phone. Adam Lane has a nice video tour, kind of no frills video tour of Windows Phone 8 GDR3 on his Lumia 925. Couple improvements there, but I think we're all pretty excited about what we're going to be seeing from Windows Phone 8.1 or whatever they're going to call it, and later. Early next year, I think, is when that's slated for, right? Am I wrong on that?
I believe so.
Yeah, maybe
I just want to see what
Taylor's
looks
listening to that audiobook again.
He keeps turning the volume up.
Well,
amazing.
While Taylor figures that out, we're at about the 1 hour, 20 minute mark on the podcast. I think it's about time we jumped in to listener mail.
I have actually somewhere to be, so...
Oh, do you now?
I didn't tell you that, but yeah.
Wait, do you have to go before listener mail? Because we need to have you for this.
No, I'll be around.
All right, good. This is great. So, Marques, what we usually do, or what we sometimes do when I sound awful, is we kind of go around the table as far as reading these things aloud. So I'm going to let Taylor Martin read this first one, and I think I'm going to let you read one of the future ones, Marques, because there's a couple that have been addressed specifically to you by listeners who knew that you were joining us this week. So, Taylor, read the first email for us from Lawrence R.
From Lawrence, yes, I think I remember that name. Pretty sure he follows me on Instagram and comments all the time. But hey, guys, huge fan. My question is about the Moto X. It's almost universally praised for how smooth it runs and on only a dual-core processor. But do you think this device has longevity? Wow, I'm having a terrible time concentrating. I'm intrigued by this device and was thinking about buying it, but will it really last a 2-year contract in this fast-growing tech space? In terms of, do you guys think it will slow down heavily within a year, lose support from Motorola? That's an interesting question, because it's not actually very future-proofed unless Google just really, really ramps up the advantages of Project Butter, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what Google does, really, because right now, as it stands, if everything stays the same on that phone, I think it'll be fine. Do either of you have anything to add to that? I mean,
yeah, I think there's two halves to that. The question is, if the specs will be fine, will they handle applications and the way Android works in 2 years? I guess I think that answer is closer to a yes because of pure Android and not having a skin to update and potentially even getting further OS updates. Like I think the Moto X will be pretty quick to Android 4.3 and maybe even 4.4. Who knows? But the other half of that is, does Motorola care enough about it, and will they actually follow through and update the OS? That's a big question mark for me, because I haven't really been able to point to a device and say, yes, when Motorola cares about something, they stand by it and update it for 2 years. I can't really point to any device and say that out of Motorola yet. Now that they're a Google company, I guess it's a little more likely, and now that this is a device closer to pure Android, it's even more likely. But I can't guarantee anything, obviously, but I would hope that the answer is yes. I would hope that this device continues to get newer and newer versions of Android and continues to remain pure and keep all those Moto features and stays as fast and smooth as it is for years, even if it doesn't have Note 3 specs.
I want to say I join you in thinking that it's probably more likely that Motorola, now that it is a Google company, will do a much better job of keeping the software updated in a timely fashion. I think it will last. I think it will age more gracefully than anything we've seen out of Motorola in the past. Mm-hmm.
Motorola better. That's all I want to say. Yeah. The Moto X is its baby. Mm-hmm. That phone, single-handed, has gotten more praise than any of its devices in the past 6 or 7 years. Maybe with the exception of the original Droid.
Yeah, I'm going back to Droid 1 now.
And the Droid X. Mm-hmm. Other than those two devices, they really haven't gotten a lot of praise. So the Moto X is something that Motorola really needs to spend a lot of TLC on,
and they're going to refresh the lineup with those. If thing goes according to plan, they're going to refresh it with the bamboo stuff, like the wooden phones in December. And I think I said this last week, but I'm buying one. I don't care that I already have one. I
already have one, and I really want to buy a wooden phone.
It's going to be so cool.
And I also think it's really appropriate that the Motorola sort of Android legacy started off with a vanilla Android device.
Yes.
And now here we are with their baby is another vanilla Android device, and everything in between is a little bit skewy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the only thing I miss from Motorola's skins is that circles widget, which I liked a lot from the Droid line. But anyway, so let's move on. I will answer this one because this is a really quick one that I think I have to answer. It's just creepy when you do that, Taylor. Like,
that's what I feel about our answer there.
Taylor,
yes, that is Sam Biddle.
I was going to say that's Sam Biddle, isn't it? Yeah, Taylor just sent us a GIF on our chat line here. No, GIF.
Marques, can you split the difference? Is it GIF or GIF?
I think I avoid saying it on video now because of the discrepancy, so I never actually say it. I think I used to say GIF, and now I say GIF. Yeah. I think I switched.
I switched twice. Right? Listen, it's GIF. The guy who devised the format calls it a GIF. That's what we have to do now.
I don't care about that guy. Nobody cares about that guy. It's a GIF.
But that was like top news for like an entire day.
Oh, I know.
I remember
news companies dropped everything to tell us that. So
I remember Adam Lane told me that on the streets of New York when I was calling it a GIF, and I felt really cool about calling it a GIF. He's like, it's GIF, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, it's totally GIF. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's a G.
It's a G. Yeah.
Just like Jeff is not spelled with a G, you can't do that.
Jeff can be spelled with a G. My uncle's name is Jeff, and he spells it with a G.
GEOFFREY.
No,
is not Jeff.
Not
That's
that.
P-O-F-3.
It's spelled GEF. Why don't you be quiet? I'm going to read an email from Owen Little. This is something I can answer. I would be interested to know, says Owen, if anyone did a follow-up piece on the HTC One and its use of Nokia microphones. Did their alternative solution degrade the quality, especially when recording videos? Really enjoy the podcast and the site. Keep up the good work. Owen, this is a cool question. We do not have a newer HTC One in the office with the new microphone technology. However, we do have a One Max, and we know that the One Max does not include the disputed component. And the One Max, as you can see in our comparison video with the One Max does indeed deliver inferior audio quality to the One. Mm. Now, that's not to say the One Max is bad. I think it actually delivers better audio quality than like the Note 3, which delivers already pretty good audio quality in terms of phone calls. But in video recording, it is substantially inferior, yes. And I have not yet met a smartphone in my days of reviewing a device that delivers better voice quality than the HTC One. So with the Nokia component, with the Nokia copied component. So early flight HTC Ones are it for me. Marques, do you have like one that stands out in your mind as delivering awesome audio quality in terms of voice and video recording?
I'm not a big phone caller, so I really never even noticed the difference between different phone calls. I'd probably make a phone call once a week at best.
Yeah.
But in terms of video recording on phones, I think they're all awful. So I've never really had any stand out to me as, wow, that's really good. That really, really isolates my voice well or cancels out the noise well. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, try out. The Note 3 does a pretty good job, but the Lumia 1020, I think, is my favorite at the moment for video.
Yeah.
Mine sucks because I accidentally shoved a SIM removal tool down the mic port. So
oh my god.
I forgot
I was
about
not paying attention.
Crime you committed. Oh,
yeah, so when I record video, it's like, the audio sounds great and then you get just a random spurt of white noise and then it's back to normal for 30 seconds and then my bad. I'm not going to tell the person that I sell this phone to. I'm sorry, but I'm that guy.
Wow, really? Wow. They're going to point to this as evidence, Yeah, the buyers are going to be a listener. Wow.
I need to update us on the Google invite.
What is it?
For next week. Apparently, Steven just wrote about this, and he said Google event invites go out, but reportedly not for the Nexus 5.
Yeah.
So this is a Google Play event, not necessarily for the Nexus 5. So I didn't have time to read it because it's wordy.
Raj.
It might not be for the Nexus 5, so we might see the Nexus 5 before or after, or maybe Google's trolling us altogether and they're not going to release a Nexus 5.
Google folds up shop in mobile, returns to its roots in search and wave.
Nexus
Google shutters really Android.
All right. Why don't we have Marques read the next one from Kunal?
Okay. The question is, here's my question for you guys and Marques. What is the most memorable smartphone or tablet you have ever reviewed?
This is a really good question from Kunal. Wow. I like this.
Most memorable device or most memorable review? I feel like the most memorable device, that is tough.
This is tough. I think for me, it's probably the Z Ultra because it doesn't necessarily have to be a good memory, but I will never forget that phone, ever.
Yeah. See, I know that this list is about to change very soon because of some plans that I have. But in terms of like smartphone or tablet that I've ever reviewed, I think early on the original Moto Droid was like really important to me, and that's a phone that I kept for more than 2 years. So it's ingrained. It has a pretty big section of my memory. So in terms of most memorable, that's got to be up there. And I overclocked that phone. I had custom ROMs on, and I made that thing last for a long, long time. So that's a pretty big part of my memory.
Speaking of old videos, I was looking at your channel just earlier this morning, and I found a video with you wearing a flat bill hat.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like,
really?
whoa, is that Marques? Whoa.
Wait, have I ever done that? I don't know.
I swear I saw it.
See if
That's
you can
news to me.
Wow. I saw the embed of one of your oldest videos in your five things about me video, and I was like, oh wow, yeah. Like I love looking at that because I've been shooting YouTube videos not with Pocketnow but elsewhere for like 6 or 7 years, and like looking at some of the old ones that are in like 240p, and I've like way younger. It's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You've got one where you look like really young. You look like you're like 14 or something.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
The oldest videos might as well be a different person, although I know exactly what I was thinking when I was making those videos. Like some of the unboxings that I did, my first videos on my channel, where like one of them where I pointed the laptop webcam at my desk so I could unbox something. Like I vividly remember making that video. It's crazy.
No, totally. I will look at these things, and it doesn't seem like it's been that long because it hasn't. But even some of my earliest Pocketnow videos were like the framing is all wrong on the host segment, so like my chin is out of frame for most of the intro. Wow. There's like a lot of headspace above my head, and my hair is stupid, and like there's nothing on the wall behind me. It's just God.
Please don't look at my first videos.
I'm gonna start.
Which were actually
Wait, your phone dog ones or Pocketnow?
Yeah, they were actually only from December. My first videos were actually like October, November last year, I think.
Nice.
So well, here we go.
I will answer Konal's question if Taylor, if you weren't going to do that. Were you going to do that?
Well, I said the Z Ultra.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good phone. It's not my favorite. It's not that. I can answer with that.
No, most memorable. Most memorable.
Most memorable, yeah.
And mine is the HTC One X because it was the first phone I ever reviewed. And
nice.
Yeah, if it had been a crappy thing or like a mid-range or low-end thing, I probably wouldn't put it here. But really, I liked it a lot. And this was coming on the heels of like the great WebOS fiasco, so I actually hadn't paid attention to Android in a long time. So picking up an HTC device after I think the last one I had was my Evo on Sprint, and like feeling this cool polycarbonate body and this cool like Disney future world design, I was like, oh wow, this is really, really awesome. They're doing great things, and LTE was brand new too. So I'd like go in the Play Store or the Android market at that point, and I would download an app, and it would be like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
One of my, I think it might have been my first. I don't remember what my absolute first review was, but one of my first was the Flip Out.
Oh, the Motorola Flip Out?
Oh my gosh, that thing is the phone that had the pivoting keyboard. It pivoted from the corner and flipped out.
Oh wow,
that thing was so awful. It was a square phone. It was literally a square.
I
want to say I know someone who has something like that,
carries
like today.
It? Like unironically today?
It might not be that. No, like totally seriously. Like not. It might not be the exact device, but I know someone who has a phone that like flips out from the corner.
You know what's so sad about
I feel
that?
like
because those phones were by and large awful, like I feel like manufacturers were scared out of making them. And one of the biggest laments I have is that no one's doing anything interesting in form factor anymore. And I'm so sad that all those phones like were crap, because if they'd been good, we might still see some of them. I still want a vertical QWERTY slider from time to time, even though it's totally impractical and I don't like physical keyboards. I just want something different and whatever.
Someone do it. Joysticks, please.
I feel like a jerk. So I found out how I found this flat bill hat picture. It's not you. I Google searched.
There's your problem.
Yeah, so I was looking this morning. I Google searched MKBHD for a picture of you to share on Instagram.
Right.
And I was quickly scrolling through the images, and I saw a picture which kind of looks like you. A little bit, not really a lot, but this guy's got tattoos and stuff, so it's not you. But the problem is, I clicked on it and it said MKBHD as a trader. It's on I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it looks like you if you kind of like quickly glance.
Let me guess. This dispute originated from a like a platform perspective. Was somebody mad that you liked an Apple product or something?
No,
it's not him.
No, I know. I know. Yeah. No, I've seen this before.
Yeah, so I thought that was you, like, just quickly scrolling through, and then it's, like, really terrible quality.
Taylor, you're right. That looks nothing like Marques.
I know. Like, if you're scrolling through a bunch of images and you see a hat, and you're like, oh, okay, and just keep going. But after you click on it, and it's definitely not you. Sorry, my bad.
That's funny. That's Pharrell.
At least we got that. Wait, that's Pharrell?
That's Pharrell.
Yeah. Like, it looked familiar, but like after I enlarged it, but yeah.
That's even better. Yeah. Well, I've lost track of who's reading the next reader mail. Is it?
That would be me.
Is it you? Okay.
Yeah, I started, and we've gone through 3.
There's a pronunciation guide here in case I were to be the one to read it, but you can go ahead and use it. Go ahead, Taylor.
The Joseph Scheidler?
Yeah, Scheidler, yeah. I would have gotten this one right, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you anyway. Hey, Pocketnow crew and Marques Brownlee. So glad to have my 2 favorite sources for everything mobile tech working together.
Yay.
Hope this would happen since Michael and Marques began tweeting at each other all the time.
Which I don't recall. Did we do that, Marques? Did we talk all the time? I don't think we did.
Did we just start tweeting? I don't know.
I mean, you and I
probably after we. Yeah. Well, I think Marques was probably after you and I played that ping pong game at that Samsung event.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you and I talk pretty frequently. Not a lot.
Because I have to. Yeah.
Not you, me and Marques, or Marques and I. But we actually have podcasted before in the past. I don't know if you remember that, Marques. But we, do you remember that?
What?
For Droid Dog?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Droid Dog. It was like 3 or 4 podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, I've never, podcasts are like a rare thing that I do, but when I do, it's like memorable. So I usually remember stuff like that, but yeah.
Anyway, back to the question. Anyway, I was wondering if you could discuss some of the differences, advantages, and other disadvantages that you each feel you have from working within a group, a Pocketnow, or working by yourself, MKBHD. Are there certain times that you'd rather be working the other way, and if so, why? Also, I often hear Pocketnow members talk about getting review units from manufacturers or third-party retailers. I was wondering if you, Marques, ever receive review units, because I mostly remember you saying you've purchased them. Seems like that add up to quite a large bill. Love the site, videos, and podcast. Keep up the good work. Joseph Scheidler. P.S. If the link of Marques's hands were mixed with the mass of Taylor's hands, it would result in Hulk hands.
I love that P.S. That's awesome.
That's great.
Let's answer that last question first, because it's the more specific one. And, I mean, Marques, I know the answer, but why don't you fill Joseph in if you feel so inclined?
Yeah. So this one's the, for review units. Yeah. A lot of the devices that I have sitting in front of me, I did in fact purchase myself. I used to really work a lot with more the manufacturers because they'd actually be kind enough to send out just review units of devices I otherwise would not have been able to get my hands on. But now with a bigger budget, I'm obviously able to purchase devices and sell them when I no longer need them. And that's basically how it works. So if I'll have, say, the Galaxy Note 2 and Galaxy Note 3, and the Galaxy Note 4 comes out tomorrow, let's say that just happens, I'll probably no longer need the Galaxy Note 2, and I can sell that, and then that'll go towards something else. So also, usually it's a little more easy for me to do more time-sensitive stuff. So on the rare occasion that I do get hooked up with something, like I was hooked up with the Moto X early, and I was able to get a couple of other things early from manufacturers. But other than that, it's usually faster for me to get a device if I just pre-order it from somewhere and get it shipped to me that way, because I don't really have that many contacts inside of companies.
That's surprising because, it's like it seems like you're always there with the cool stuff in hand, and I think, and from Pocketnow's perspective, I think we've said this a couple times, but we also mix it up too. We get review units, yes, but if we have to get stuff, if we have to buy stuff, we do all the time, and we get stuff from Negri and Clove, and they loan us stuff and whatever.
We don't get review units from Google, so I went out and purchased the Nexus 7 on launch day.
So. Right.
Yep.
So I love this other question. This is cool. Like, did some of the differences, advantages, and disadvantages of working within a group or working by yourself? That's a really cool question because I've had it too. Like, I mean, it's got to be, Marques, kind of cool to just be completely responsible for everything you do from front to back. It is the you show, and if you screw up, then it's on you, and if you don't, then if you succeed, then it's on you. Like, that's got to be kind of giving you a certain degree of freedom, right?
Right. So there's a whole, like you said, there's a whole degree of freedom of like I get to make my decisions, and then whatever happens is all on me. The closest thing I've ever wanted to having, working in a group, at least on my YouTube videos, is like having a place to record that I don't currently have, or having someone hold the camera when I need to be further away from it than I usually am, and I don't have a tripod and need someone to get me in focus and framed. And that kind of stuff takes extra time because it's me checking the camera and then standing up and going and checking framing and then going back and sitting down and adjusting focus and then standing up and going back and checking focus and then going back and sitting down and getting mic levels and then standing up and checking mic levels. So yeah, all that stuff would definitely be accelerated, but I feel that the creative process, I would never want anyone else's. It sounds weird to say, but I wouldn't really want that to change. I love the individual creative process and having full control over everything I do in my videos. Lets me try new things, lets me get direct feedback on each individual little thing that I change because I know what I changed and I can see people's comments about things like that. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to it, but on the video side of things, I love the creativity of working by myself.
I completely agree. Yeah, go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I worked for Phone Dog for 3 years, and while I was actually on a team, I pretty much worked by myself. So I wasn't doing videos. I was writing editorials every day. And I chose the content I wrote it as I thought about it. And, I had complete freedom over what I did pretty much. And it was cool. It was great. But I also got the feeling that, the whole site, and this is not to knock Phone Dog at all. I love the guys over there. They're awesome people. And I loved working for them. But it was kind of disjointed in that we all did kind of our own thing. And we would communicate, we would email, we would talk, but we all did kind of what Marques does. You come up with your own content and you make it. So I did that under the Phone Dog moniker, but it was me. So it was unique. It was really cool, and I liked it a lot. And then over time, it was like, man, it would be really cool to collaborate with some people. And that's why we started making the podcasts and stuff. And now it's kind of the same thing. So we schedule rigorously here at
Pocketnow now?
Yeah. So at Pocketnow, we schedule rigorously. So we get a schedule every week, and by Friday, my schedule is nothing like what it was on Monday. Actually, by the time Tony and I, so actually by the time Tony and I get off the phone on Monday, my schedule is completely different from what it was when we got on the phone. So it's different, but in the same respect, none of us are in the same cities. With the exception of Steven and Brandon?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so they actually are both in the same city, but none of the other people are. And none of us work together unless we're at a trade show. So it's actually very similar. So we all have the same problem Marques has in that we don't have that extra hand holding the camera and getting us in focus and setting up. So everything you see us do, we do by ourselves, with the exception of sometimes I outsource to friends. So for the Nokia video, I reached out to a videographer friend who, wanted to help and wanted some
for you. Yeah. But we'll outsource within the team too. So like that's the thing. You were making the same point I was going to make. Like Marques and I have the same feeling. It's like we're all shooting videos independently, as you're saying, Taylor. But sometimes if there's too much content, we can outsource the editing to Jaime, who taught all of us everything he knows about Final Cut Pro, and that's how we all kind of know how to work it. But I prefer, and not because, listen, I love the job Jaime does, but I prefer editing my own video because it's total creative control. It's that thing where it's like, I've scripted it, I've shot it, I'm editing it. This is exactly the vision that I wanted on the screen. And but at a trade show, it helps to have other people, like when you're out there just shooting video after video after video after video, to come back to the press room even if it's just to have somebody there constantly, even if it's just to save a seat so you don't have to go hunting for a new seat every time you come back to the press room, that is incredibly useful. And just to have somebody there who's editing all the time to come back, dump a couple USB flash drives in his lap, it's like, edit this and post it, please. And, you know, he's a machine and he does it. And then you can be out. So you can be in two places at once. That's the advantage of having a team at an event.
Yeah.
But like what you said about creative control, like another thing is, so there's a lot more like niche things inside of YouTube videos. So there's the shooting of the video itself, there's the editing of the video, there's the audio, and then there's the editing of the audio, and then there's the final piece and how you write the description and all these other things like that. But I find that when I'm shooting the video, I'm already thinking about how I'm going to be editing the video. When I'm talking to the camera, I'm thinking already where I want this to be in the video. Yeah. So when I get back to, editing it in the first place, I already know what I want it to look like in the end, and I'm just piecing it together, the vision I had in my mind. So it would be different at an event, like you said, because you're doing way more videos and there might be a less specific goal within each individual video. But still, I'd like, having the creative control and being able to shoot for the editing process is really helpful.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. People don't understand, especially like my friends. We always go out and do stuff, later in the evening. And every time I show up, they're like, why are we always waiting on you? And they're like, you just had, something, you just worked today. And they say that so nonchalantly, but they don't understand that making a 4-minute video is a production. Yeah. It is a 15 to 20 step process that you have to do every single time. And if you do something you're not used to doing, so like the automatic review I did, that took me forever.
Yeah, because you're shooting in a new environment. You're editing at a different pace, and you've got to deal with transitions now, where you're in the car, you're in the same shot, and it's not just some static lockdown shot of a phone. Like you're actually have different moving scenery outside the car, and then you drive too fast and the camera's vibrating.
And the scripting and everything, like it's not the same because I'm not writing about a phone, so I don't have this kind of outline that I normally go by. Yeah, or this template. It's kind of different.
There's no
talk of battery life for automatic. So how do you have to fill in the gaps and kind of just go with the flow, and it's a process and it takes a long time. Like most that review, if I had done it about a phone, it would have taken me, the video alone would have taken me 4 hours maybe. The scripting, the shooting, the audio, and writing the actual written part would take me 2-3 hours.
Well, video's a huge time sink.
Yeah, but that review took me 2 full days. It did, and I'm just like, wow, I've wasted so much time, but I haven't. I've been working intently that whole time. So my friends just don't get it.
No, nobody gets it. It's very difficult. But that translates to professional sets as well. I mean, my background is acting, and I've spent some time on film sets. And my God, when you add more people into the mix, it only gets worse. And I don't mean that in an output sense. Like when you add more people in the mix, obviously sometimes you can get some really amazing product. But just in the actual format of shooting, in the actual place and time you're rolling film,
it's more disconnected.
Yeah, having 10 people there is it's giant. It becomes this giant black hole for time and money, and nothing is on schedule. Everything's always late, and it's just I don't like working in that kind of environment at all.
I don't like you or your face.
I don't like you and your opinions or nothing. Let's move on to the next piece of mail.
I'll punch you with my Hulk hands.
End this podcast. Is it Marques' turn to read one? I think so, right?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
5? Yeah.
Nakul, yes.
Second to last one. Okay. The question reads, hello, Marques. My name is Nakul Gupta from India. I'm a big, big, big fan of yours. Thank you. I haven't missed a single episode on your channel. I religiously follow MKBHD, Pocketnow, Techno Buffalo, Phone Dog, etc. channels to keep myself updated on the tech news.
Thank you.
My question is, when do you think that battery technology is going to change? I personally thought it would be 2013. Recently, an Indian girl, Eshe Kar, I believe that's how you pronounce it, invented a battery that could charge a cell phone in 20 seconds using supercapacitors. When do you think that will happen? I also want to thank all you guys at Pocketnow for this opportunity. Looking forward to seeing great mobile technology stuff from you guys to keep me entertained.
Well, thank you for your support.
Yeah,
that was long. Cool. Basically, the supercapacitor stuff is graphene batteries. So they take a capacitor, coat it in a graphene solution or a carbon-based solution, and it basically works instead of so your normal battery, your normal lithium-ion, lithium polymer battery charges one cell at a time from the innermost cell to the outermost. Graphene, on the other hand, charges all cells simultaneously. So it works much quicker. And the only side effect I think that you might have from this is that the longevity of your charge, so your stamina, is actually dependent upon how long it took to charge. So it might actually negatively affect how long the same capacity would stay charged.
Yeah.
So it takes 20 seconds to charge, but it lasts maybe 60% of the time or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So a lot of the new battery technologies that I keep reading about, which look ever so promising, still tend to be cost restrictive, I think, and a lot of times it's also size. But in terms of just getting the cost and reliability down, it's obviously an economy of scale. But having such an expensive new technology in a phone and in a small area that's really heat sensitive is still a long way off. And I'm with you that I really would love it to be soon, and I want that to be a focus of of phone manufacturers. I'm happy about phones like the Razer Max and the Galaxy Note 3, but that's just a larger version of the battery technology we currently have. And actually switching to a totally different technology like that is a long process. It's an expensive process. But once it becomes more readily available and once it becomes way more mass produced, I think that's something I'd really enjoy to see, and I hope it's soon. I'm in the same boat.
That's the major hurdle, is mass production. So people have made these graphene batteries, the supercapacitors, for going on 1.5 years or 2 years now. So I wrote about the first one when I was at Phone Dog because I was just blown away. I was like, what? A battery that would charge in 10 seconds? That is insane. And in what I was writing about, they were talking about charging a car battery, not a car battery, but an electric vehicle set of batteries. So an entire battery inside a car in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And
you
I'm like,
blow your phone up.
They put insurance on that vehicle.
Just mind explosion at how awesome that would be. Or I think it was under a minute for a full car. So it'd be like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's still nuts.
That is insane, because right now the problem with electric vehicles is you run out of charge, you pull up to a charging station, and you have to leave it there for hours.
Yeah, for hours, right.
So it's not like you can go road tripping in an electric vehicle, but with something like that, you could.
So translating that into something handheld is quite a feat.
Yeah, because the problem with cell phones is not that we have to charge our phones so often, it's how slow they charge. So if you had a phone that would charge in 20 seconds or 10 seconds or a minute even, but it only lasted 2 or 3 hours on a charge, would you really care?
Yeah.
Because all you would have to do is carry maybe a spare battery with you or an outlet, not an outlet, but a USB cable, plug it in for a minute, and then you're good for another 3 hours.
And we keep seeing...
That might be a little annoying, but, still.
It would be really annoying, actually. But yeah, it would not be as annoying as our current situation, which is like basically everyone's out of juice all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see new stuff coming from all these manufacturers all the time. Like, I feel like they wait for slow news weeks to roll around in between product cycles, and they're like, hey, we're working on this for 2018. And it's like, okay, like 40-foot long wireless charging arcs. Just walk through the zone and your phone gets charged. It's like, yeah, all right, that would be cool, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So we'll see what goes on. Speaking of battery life, I'm at 13%, and we have to wrap up this podcast. So let's get to the last piece of listener mail.
What a loser.
I know, right?
Actually, I missed a meeting at 3:00, so yeah.
Ooh. Victor Bebowski asks, hello guys, I'm from Macedonia, and I have a question for MKBHD. What kind of car do you drive? And is it red or black?
So originally this is an interesting question with a very uninteresting answer, but I figured since it's the last question, I can give you guys a bit of an inside scoop.
Ooh.
That I've never
Model
told
S.
anyone. Well, okay. So right now I live in a city where it doesn't make sense for me to have a car, and I go to college and I don't drive ever except for to Ultimate tournaments on weekends. So in that sense, I just go home and get it's actually a Jeep that I was driving before and use that to take people to tournaments. But right now where I am in Hoboken here, no, I don't have a car, and no, it's not red and black. But In 2 years, I'll be graduating from college, and I absolutely will have my eyes on the Model S. But by the end of this year, I'm working with someone, or a couple of people right now, actually, to actually get some video coverage of the Tesla Model S and actually use it for a while, drive it around. And again, going back to the whole learning experience thing and shooting as a one-man team, it's impossible to do that kind of stuff as a one-man team. So I'll be working with other people to get that done. But that's going to be fun. I'm going to have a whole totally different style of video, maybe a couple of videos in a row, just to mess around with the Tesla Model S, and it should be fun. And yes, it will be red and black.
And it will be red and black for real?
Yes, it will be.
Oh, that's
nice.
Amazingly
and
cool.
I can attest to how difficult it is to shoot video inside a car.
Yes, you can.
So I have a whole new level of respect for all these car channels that I follow so closely because they set up their videos, and I know what they do and the equipment they have, but trying to rig your own stuff, which I am so great for. I mean, if anybody knows on the side that I like doing some do-it-yourself stuff, it just... I tried to rig some stuff together, and it just did not work. Nothing I did would work, so I actually had to get...
You don't have any GoPros, Taylor?
I don't. I need to get some.
You got to get some GoPros. They're amazing.
I plan to invest in a couple GoPros, but I had to get a friend to hold my camera.
1, 2, and 3. I love them all.
I had to get a friend to hold the camera while I drove, and it worked, but I hated how the video turned out. I wish, I look back, I watch every video I post probably 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
And I do it just to see.
You watch every video I post about 0.3 times.
Yeah, I don't ever watch your videos.
Nice.
No, I watch a lot of videos, and all my friends make fun of me for how much time I spend watching YouTube videos, and I do it to improve my own quality because I watch all my own videos to take note of everything I've done wrong.
You know what's creepy is when you watch somebody else's videos that you've never seen before, and they're using techniques that you use, and you're like, "Oh, did you get that from me?" And then you look at the date stamp in the video. It's like, "Wow, you posted this before I started doing that." And it's like, no, but you didn't actually copy each other, but you just did the same thing.
Picked up on each other.
Isn't that cool? I love it when that happens.
But I just hated how it turned out, where everything was so shaky. So if you have any insight on after you do that, Marques.
Yeah, I have a lot of things that I've picked up on from watching other car reviews and I've watched probably every Tesla Model S video on the internet at this point, and there is a lot, trust me. So, but I'm picking up on the tips. Right now I have an image stabilized lens, and I have a whole bunch of different pieces of gear that will potentially help me shoot a car, which is significantly bigger than any phone I've ever reviewed and have an easier time with it. But it's always going to be a new experience. And, new challenging experiences like that are always good. Always fun.
Well, I definitely look forward to it. Since May, when I bought my car, I cared nothing, and I literally mean nothing about cars until the FRS was announced. And when I saw it the first time, I literally just drove straight to the dealership the day they rolled them out on the lot. And I stared at it for about...
Did you take a pillowcase full of cash? Did you load a comically large bag full of American dollar bills and drop it on?
No, I drove to the lot and I stared at one for about 30 minutes and tried to determine whether I wanted to trade my car in that day. And I was like, I need to wait. And I walked away. I told the dealership, I was like, I will buy this car. And I came back about 6 months later and I bought one. And
our life has never been the same since.
But yeah, ever since May, I'm like, I can't get enough cars. Just everything cars all the time. And I think it's maybe where I'm kind of overloaded on technology and phones and everything. I need something else to put my time into. But
everybody needs balance, brother.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed
stuff
with
on the
cars.
other side of your life. We got Ultimate Frisbee, Star Trek, and cars. I like it.
There it is.
We got a good mix right here.
NASCAR. I have to throw that into every podcast.
The NASCAR.
Yeah.
I live in NASCAR country, in case you didn't know, Marques. Literally, Charlotte is NASCAR country.
Makes sense.
90% of all the garages.
NASCAR's not doing too well these days. NASCAR's having some trouble retaining its audience, actually.
NASCAR.
I've been reading NASCAR.
Because the whole thing is jacked up.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that it has been it's always wonderful hearing about Charlotte, but it has been distinctively wonderful hearing from Hoboken today. So, Marques, thank you for coming on the air with us and for spending some time with Pocketnow. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a long time.
It has been a long time coming, actually. Yeah, I'm glad we actually finally managed to pull the trigger on this. I'm sorry it couldn't be the Note 3 release week. It would have been cool to like all be excited about the same new thing at the same time. But I think we cut a really nice swath through a good amount of stuff, as we usually do on the show. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you again in exactly 1 week's time on the VIP. That's going to be cool. Listeners, if you want to get ahead of that a little bit, you can send some emails. I don't think we have a special inbox set up for the VIP because it's kind of a rare show that we do. But we will drop an announcement post on Monday re-advertising the VIP with Marques Brownlee. And if you want to leave questions in the comments there, we'll probably throw an email address in there that you can send messages to. But as we hit the 2-hour mark, that is going to do it for this episode of The Weekly. Tune in for that Pocketnow VIP with Marques next week. But until then, you can find us on Twitter. Taylor is at CasperTech. Marques is at MKBHD, also MKBHD on YouTube. And as always, you can find me at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, as Pocketnow on Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And you can share information and opinions with other listeners online at forums.pocketnow.com. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music so we don't have to do a pledge drive. And if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the show, or you just want to say hi, you can email us a brief message, please, at podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Touching all the candy. Yeah.
No one who doesn't watch Family Guy will get it.
Yeah.